Welcome to Women of Calibre. Today we have the fantastic Dr. Ewa Pluciennicka joining us. She's going to introduce herself, but I do want to say because I've always been a lover of science, and I'm a former engineer technically. Watch that space. And so I'm just happy to be welcoming a former neuroscientist who is in the mental health and education sphere now, who has been in academia previously. And she's going to tell us all about her career path and all the wisdom that she has to share with girls and women all over the world. So over to you, Ava. How are
Oh,
you doing?
hello everyone. Hello, Claire. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's really a great pleasure for me to be here. It's also actually very special for me to be here because it's actually my first podcast, and I
Oh,
feel very pleased, very honored to be featured in Women of Calibre. It's really wow. It's really a big honor for me to be here, and I have been also watching your work for a while, so it's also, I'm honored to be your guest, really.
oh my goodness. I, I had no idea. I'm so happy to welcome you on the show. Really, it's my pleasure. I think
Mhm.
we're privileged to have you on today. I've learned so much from you. So
Thank you, and and the other way around as well. Yeah.
so tell us everything. Tell us like how. Tell us, yeah, how you got started. Like,
Yeah, well, well, I mean, yeah, it's always difficult to tell your journey. So I will just maybe choose like the key points and things that I think that really influenced my career, but also like my personality and the values that I preach for right now. So I was born and raised in Poland, and in 80s and 90s rather. And then in Poland the situation was really not good, the economical situation, so there was really this push of going abroad. And so I did international baccalaureate in Poland, and then I went to France for studies. And yeah, maybe something to say was that at the beginning I was really lost. I didn't know what I want to study, and I think that, as we mentioned just before, there is this tricky moment, like when you're 17, 18, when you really need to decide what you want, what you like. And well, then I was between two, international relations and psychology. And yeah, I went for psychology, so I did a master degree in at the University of Strasbourg. It's a master degree in neuropsychology. So this is the I would say the most strict part of psychology, when we are really looking into the brain capacities, such as attention, such as memory, and which part of the brain is actually responsible for that. And so that brought me to work with patients suffering from Alzheimer's disease or from strokes. So, and my passion was really rehabilitation, and like, how we can improve actually those functions, like not exactly optimizing them, but helping to get to normal. And so I was very passionate about that, to the point that I really I was really spending my evenings, like studying the cases of the patients that I was working with, trying to find the right solutions for them. And that actually, I was spending so much time that at some point I thought, oh, maybe I should do a PhD. Actually, like I'm so curious about it. And so yes, that brought me to doing a PhD. So my PhD, I did it at the University of Lille in collaboration with University of Birmingham. And and like the story there was that, like, my science was very fundamental science. And also, how a human evolves is also incredible, because when I was starting my studies of psychology,
mhm.
as an idea was that I will be like a child psychologist or family psychologist, something much more general, more closer to the human sciences. And then once I was actually doing my master's, I said, well, I actually need some data. I need some concrete things, And also there was a little bit of a language barrier. So I thought, okay, it will be just more right to do the neuropsychology. And then I got really, really passionate about neuropsychology and how we can optimize our brain power and
Mm.
and so on. And this field is actually relatively new, so there was a lot of research coming out, and all the time looking for new things, and oh, we can do that and we can do that. And also understanding our brain is very much related to technology as well, because it's inside. So when the technology gets better, then we are getting better understanding. We can look better into the brain. And so that was also with my PhD. I kind of surprised myself there as well, because again, I thought, okay, I want to work with people. And then I really fall in love in statistics. I fall in love in eye tracking. I fall in love in all those data analysis. And that really got me into programming, but hardcore programming and dealing with big data and so on. And so, when I was starting my studies of psychology, I would never think that I would get to something so precise and so hard sciences in a way. But then, and so then I really got into research. I really loved it. I have to say that I didn't love my topic. It was a very fundamental topic, so it was an interesting topic, but it was very detached from the reality, and especially the reality that I saw in the hospital. But I loved learning, and I think that this is really my drive. I love learning, so I really enjoyed my PhD so much because I could learn. You're basically paid to learn. So I was learning technology, I was learning about new research, so I kept learning. And yeah, and so I finished my PhD with 8 publications, so that was very, very good, really, for the for the field and so on. And then I moved to Strasbourg, where I did 2 postdocs. First one was really in psychology, with a big charge of teaching, actually. So I was teaching a lot, and then the second one was in at the Faculty of Medicine, and that was really human neuroscience. And there I worked on a more applied topics, related to sugar processing in our brain. So I think this is something
Oh,
we also talked about before, just the
yes.
two of us. So yeah, so that was very interesting. And I also saw, that there are some topics that are just easier to understand to the general audience than the others. But also that experience in the Faculty of of Medicine, at Human Neuroscience, that was very interesting experience for me. Once again, uh, of course, for my research skills, definitely, but also it was a very big laboratory with a very people with very diverse backgrounds. So I could work with medical doctors, people that were doing PhD in medical sciences, people that were doing PhDs with engineering, because we were working with fMRI, we were working with different technologies applied to health. So the interesting part was that people were not coming. I was the only one with a background of psychology, actually. And then I realized that people actually start, and I was already a little bit more senior, let's say. I already had my PhD. I already had 3 years after that, I was 3 years after the PhD. So I also had that experience of academia already, and also working in the different labs. And there, my colleagues started to come to me to ask, oh, well, how would you do that? Or they started to tell me about their stress, their challenges. And I thought, well, but what can I do? I understand, uh, but just listening to it and then actually giving them advice that I could give from my own experience or from my knowledge of psychology, what would I say, and just I saw that it was actually helping them, because they kept coming. And the funny thing with that was also that um, like researchers are moving. So they were finishing their PhD and they would move to another country, like to continue their career. Back then it was Skype. So we were still catching up on Skype, and they would want to speak with me, but in a different quality than a good friend. It was like, no, you can, I know that you understand what we are saying. Like, we want your advice. Yeah. And so that was very like eye-opening for me, because I think that suffering, like mental suffering in academia, is omnipresent. It's very present. There is really a lot of pressure, and I don't think it's necessary like the competition between the scientists. There is a bit of that as well, but there is like a lot of work pressure. Like, you really need to perform. You have to deal with a big number of information, like a big amount of information, very, very fast. You need to produce articles, conferences. Data overall, but it has to go fast and it has to be excellent, and we are always like exposed to that continuous feedback and continuous improvement. Even when you're an experienced researcher and you submit a scientific paper, there is still a peer review process, so you will be criticized or given advices on how to improve the paper, again, like by your colleagues. So basically it's really a culture of constant improvement, and so that is really very heavy sometimes mentally, to carry that, to be confident, to still be motivated, to still believe in yourself. And it can be also very, very stressful. So I saw that, like, how my colleagues that didn't have that background in psychology were handling it, and that they found my advice is really valuable. And then, I also kind of hit the roadblock. Like, I was happy to live in Strasbourg, and also in academia there is really this big mobility. So like, you basically go there where you find a job, but you don't always choose where you want. Like, you don't go where you want to go. You go where there is an open position, where your topic is actually matching the research topic of that given laboratory. So you actually don't choose, you kind of beg for position, and you go where they are taking you. And yeah, like, getting to my early 30s back then, I thought, well, do I still want that life? And I was also kind of tired, of that life and working so much, because at the beginning I thought, okay, after the PhD I will be kind of done, like PhD, the diploma, the defense, it's like a final deadline, and then you do research, but you do it on your own conditions. Of course you work, but there is no that pressure. And at the end I realized that there was actually even more pressure, because you had
Oh.
to apply for the grants, because you had
Mm.
to like work to assure your next step, but that was actually not counted in your working hours.
Hmm.
So yeah, like, yeah, because it's your career. So and applications in academia are very long, so it's not a CV and a motivation letter. This is very often you need to make a research proposal, you need to make, yeah, like your integration proposal, where you have to look at what other researchers are actually doing,
Yeah.
contact them, come up with a project, some sort of a project, write, I don't know, like 10 pages of like, how would you integrate and how you see the collaboration with the team. So it's really very long and effortful, really laborious, effortful application process. Yeah, and at some point I was really looking for something different. Of course, also in academia there is a lot of politics, and some labs are
Mm.
better than the others. So in my last laboratory I also really felt it, and it was affecting me. So I thought, okay, like, there were like those different ingredients that made me think, okay, but I love science. I still really love science. I'm truly interested in science. I still follow in what happens in my field. But that is one part. But then there is life, and then I started to think, but what do I want for myself? And that is actually where, then it's really about, then like, I heard the word digital nomads, and I started to think, but what is that? And back then, so we are talking now about 2017, 2018. So like, the remote work was not yet really there. It was not something common. So this is so I heard that word. I started to do my research on it as well, and this is actually what brought me to Chiang Mai, to Thailand, which is considered the mecca of digital nomads. And over there, I've met so many inspiring people, so many people that were actually entrepreneurs and who were either teaching online or, like using the skills that I had, but in a completely different way, and they were making their living from it. They were in a beautiful location, they were choosing their locations, like, all that freedom. And I was very scared to leave academia. And also many of my friends who are also academics, they told me, like, Eva, but you have all those publications, but like, no, just continue. Why are you doing that? And it's true that the future was really uncertain, but I did it. And yeah, and so right now it's almost 5 years that I created PhD Success. And so PhD Success is an online platform dedicated to mental health support of PhD academics. So in short, I help PhD students to optimize their productivity skills. So that is like the neuropsychology part that comes here. So I help them to be more productive and to achieve more while putting less efforts and also enjoying their life a bit, having their life. And on the other side, I also help them to overcome their mental challenges that are those typical high achievers mental challenges, which is like, imposter syndrome or, lack of confidence, but also dealing with stress, dealing with anxiety, preventing burnout. I mean, I don't want to say dealing, but like preventing burnout, and just having, like, coming to a good balance, between work and work ambitions, and then what you want in life.
That's fantastic, honestly. And I mean, I know that you have focused on, the industry that you've been in, which is academia, and working with people in that environment. But a lot of the points that you've raised, like toxic workplaces,
Mm-hmm.
being under constant pressure to produce, to learn, to just not just deliver the work, but also ensure that you have a pipeline, that you have funding, all of that. I mean, these are kind of transferable to solopreneurs in a sense, right? So,
Absolutely.
and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's pretty much, in a way, that's how we met, because what was I doing? Yeah, pretty much I quit my job. I was like, mm, yeah, I need to I knew that I needed to fix my lifestyle, and do a career change. But I think when I met you, I had literally just certified, got my certification as
Yeah.
a nutritional therapy
Nutrients,
practitioner.
yes.
Yeah, so I was
Mm-hmm.
fresh out of like, oh, all the things, the knowledge, and I was just raring to go. But I had no idea about entrepreneurship. That was because I'd been an employee, my entire life prior to that. And so yeah, we met in an environment with, I guess, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, remote workers, a mixed bag of people, and yeah, and it just, I mean, this is amazing. So you've made several transitions, like you've moved countries, you've learned
Yeah.
languages. I mean, like you've done so much. I don't even know. I'm not at this point. I'm not even sure what to ask you next. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Tell us about the transition. What was it like going from the relative, I guess, security, would you call it, of academia, and just throwing yourself into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think that was hard. Honestly, I think that the transition is really hard in a sense that, yes, I was also an employee all my life, like, in a employee, as a neuropsychologist in a hospital, and also employee at the university. So as a scientist. So then I think that really there are two big changes. I think that one big change, and I see a lot of entrepreneurs who have similar paths struggling from it, is going from employee to entrepreneur in the sense of project management, that you have to manage yourself, that you have to, manage your time, how you manage your time, how do you work alone. And there is also this feeling of loneliness because basically it's your project, right? So for me, I think that I didn't have that much. It was easier from that sense because as a researcher, you're already working on your project. And I mean, this is also one of the challenges for researchers, is that they feel very lonely because they are the captain of their boat, basically. So I already had before that that habit, of working on my own things, on deciding what I'm doing first. I also often researchers, so I had that big flexibility of working from home or from the office. Of course, I had to be there sometimes, and I couldn't go wherever I wanted. But basically, the flexibility of time and time manage was already there. So from that side, it was relatively easy for me. On the other side, what was very difficult for me, and it's still work in progress, it's mindset. It is really, how do you value your work? How do you value your services? And honestly, this one is a very, very big one, And again, I think that in that sense, really, the academic background doesn't help me, to be completely honest, because over there we do a lot of things, very diverse things, and we're not being paid for it like extra, so you don't actually know what is the value of your skills. So if we look at it, like data analysis, yes, I can do it, I can deal with a big data, but for me, analyzing the data has no value if I cannot publish.
Right.
You see,
Yeah.
so you're learning those skills and not necessarily also becoming an expert on it, because you will work on your particular set of data. But then, like, if it's not publishable, then you don't get anything from it, Another thing is, for example, conferences. And this is something that you go for a conference to present your research, right? So you're going to a different university and you will spend there often, either conferences or like you're invited guest speaker. So you will just go there. The people that invite you, they will, like, the university will pay for your stay over there, but not for the knowledge that you're sharing. So it's just, so it's considered a part of your it's considered a part of your duty to disseminate knowledge, to share your knowledge.
Right.
So it's very common that researchers are invited to go to a different symposiums, different labs, to share their knowledge. And this is considered exactly the part of their job, because they have their salary and this is a part of their job. The same, like knowledge sharing. You just sit with someone and you brainstorm, or you listen to someone challenges and then you give him advice on it. I mean, research wise, this is just this is a part of our job, right? It's a very intellectual, very creative job. So this is what we do. So it has been very difficult for me to differentiate my services and put a price on it, because basically what I'm doing is different but very similar in a way. Because yes, I will sit and listen to people and give them my advice and give them my thoughts. Now it's more in a role of a psychologist, but also I use that understanding of academia, right? But okay, what is the price for it? Before, it was just normal for me. The
Yeah.
same when you go to the universities. I had several situations where universities thought that I will do it for free. And then it's very difficult to say, well, actually, no, I'm a business now. I cannot do it for free, because going somewhere, it's not only my time, it's also my knowledge, and I should be paid for that knowledge. And that's like, I'm very happy and proud of me that I'm able to say it right now. But really, 4 or 5 years ago, it was really not, not like that. And to be honest, I during COVID, for example, I gave so many conferences, so many webinars, also contributed to the different universities' mental health programs, just like that, because I was there, and I thought, oh, I should do it. And my
Oh
partner back
no!
then, he was saying, but why are you so busy? You're not being paid for it. You know,
Oh
this is really that differentiation that, like, yes, you have the skills, yes, you have the knowledge, but you should be paid for your knowledge, you should be paid for your years of experience. And for me, making that, like, say, just being able to say that
no!
was extremely, extremely hard. And I think that in that sense, people that are coming, more from a business side, even if they worked in corporates,
Yeah.
of course, they were also employees. But then you think, okay, time is money, experience is money. Like, I've met, through my journey, I met a lot of entrepreneurs, and I see that there are some that really think about the value of their work much, much
Yeah.
earlier. Whereas for me, that was that was really a very, very big challenge. And I also see it right now with my clients
Mm.
who are very, very bright, well educated. They have their PhDs in all different fields, and they are struggling to find work. But the struggle is, on one side, is okay, that there are limited positions, but even the positions in industry, there are. But they would go and they would say, yes, but this technique, I don't know it 100%, or
Oh,
this one I should learn more. So, like, this typical academic approach of, I need to get better in that,
they
of
feel
that
they need.
constant improvement. Whereas I think, and this is something, yeah, like, or like devaluating a little bit our own work, because it
Mhm.
can always be better.
It, you're so right. It's really interesting that you mentioned mindset because I'm sort of writing notes as we're talking.
Mhm,
And
mhm, mhm.
at the top, on the top right hand side, I literally put mindset because the the shift from being an employee to actually running your own business and providing a service that has value, for me, it's also the thing that I've struggled with the most. And yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to that. So, because you're thinking, and I think we're very similar in that respect. Like, I love hoarding knowledge
Mhm.
so that I couldn't crunch it, analyze it, and work out how to put it into practice, to apply it. That's what engineering is, really. It's like you've got the science, the knowledge on the one hand, and then the practical application. And yeah, like you, I love to learn and I love to share my knowledge for free, whether people want to hear it or not.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Mhm.
what I realized is that, when you make that switch or that transition into entrepreneurship, you are then producing, yeah, information, but you're providing a service and the value. Okay, so the knowledge that you have acquired over time and your expertise is actually invaluable. It's not possible to put a monetary value to it. But the service that you provide, you can. And it's based on having the clients who can appreciate what you bring to the table, right? Because for them, again, it's also invaluable. So, so yes, it's really hard to put a price to something that is invaluable, effectively, because you don't know, you're helping them to achieve their professional goals, right? And maybe you're helping them to transition out of academia. Like, how do you put a price on that? and improving their mental health all the
Yes.
while
Mhm,
and boosting their
mhm,
confidence.
mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
So I was very humble with that, and to the point that one of my clients told me, Eva, you have to raise your prices with the value that you give, with the help that you're giving me. I want to pay you more. Really, that's what I was so like happy and embarrassed at the same time to have a client tell me that. So yeah, that's yeah,
Yeah.
it's really coming from academia. I think it's also very difficult to realize the capacities that we actually have, and yeah, what value they have, and like what you can bring to people. So I have to say that I was very fortunate to work with clients. So it's often PhD students, PhD researchers, or researchers that are shortly finished their PhD, and they are like in their first postdoctoral or industry position, but still struggling with with what with the impact of their PhD on their well-being. And yeah, very very often, like they made me realize
Mhm.
how much value I'm bringing them, how helpful our conversations are, that yeah, the advice that I'm giving them, that I'm applying it, and that they are coming back, to me to say, well, thank you, it really really worked. And I mean, if you don't mind, I can share just a very
My
recent
goodness.
success story, which is a little bit of an unusual success story, but I just last week I almost cried on the session, because one of my client came. So we are meeting online, pretty much like here. We are connecting. We have our virtual meeting room, and then we see each other and we just start talking. And then at the beginning of the conversation, she said, "Well, I actually have to tell you something." And then she shows me her ring, and she has an engagement ring. And then her partner pops up, and they both tell me, "Eva, thank you. It's all thanks to you that we have met. And you're really like the auntie of our relationship. If you were not there for that client, we wouldn't have met. So thank you so much. And we are getting married." And all that. So it was really, and I was like, wow, wow. So the story is, I was working with that client for a while, and she really struggled with balancing her work. She was so
Mm.
much into work. And I helped her to find a little bit of balance and allow a little bit of other social life. And so she started going to the dance classes.
Mhm.
Not much, like twice a week, but this is how she met her partner. But I was
Mm.
already back then insisting, really, now you have to do something, and you have to have a fixed activity. You like, it's for your mental health. And it's because I pushed her that actually, next to her PhD and a very good job that she got afterwards, she also allowed life to happen. And to be honest, you also need to have time and mental availability for that. So I mean, meeting a life of your life, while doing a PhD, and it's amazing. It's amazing. And I had several clients also successfully finishing their PhD, and we have that acknowledgement part. So I have been officially acknowledged in 5 or even more PhD dissertation. And one of my clients even said, like, that wouldn't my like I wouldn't come to the end with my PhD if Eva was not there for me. So really, yeah, and
Um,
that really makes me realize that yes, there is a value that I can do something.
Absolutely. I mean, there are people who are less. I'm because now I've got my entrepreneurial hat on, and I'm thinking they're executive coaches. Do you know how much they charge? I'll tell you offline. That are
Okay.
not nearly as qualified
Mm-hmm.
as you, or have maybe they've done a coaching course that was. I don't want to be disparaging that that maybe lasted a few months. Um, Yeah, I mean, we're talking 5 figures, and they're embedded in like the C-suite of major corporations.
All right.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm not saying that it is, but generally, people get into business to make money. So, I think it's fine for us to talk about generating cash. Because I've got to say that in my previous career, when I was working as an engineering consultant, I didn't feel that way at all. I really felt like engineers are like probably the worst business people that you'll find. They're very
Really?
hesitant because they don't have the business skills. What
Okay.
tends to happen in consultancy is you start off by delivering the work, so you're a junior, you become a consultant, they let you loose on clients, and then if you're good at that, then you get to manage a team. If you're like me and you're really good at not managing but so much training people, then I got stuck in that role of training graduates to become competent, and they'd earn their stripes and leave. And then the layer above that is where you're doing business development, but engineers are absolutely shocking. They're shocking at pricing jobs, so projects. There's a lot of undervaluing, and I mean, if you don't want the client, you just add zeros to, to
Okay.
the
Wow.
fee estimate, and
Oh, wow.
then you
Okay.
price yourself out, or you do a lot of extra work, a lot, that
Yeah.
is not.
Yeah, like just like in academia. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I always thought, so I remember I was talking to a friend who's a lawyer, and I thought, lawyers, you're really good at charging people what your services are actually worth. And she said, no, we're not. I said, but you charge by the hour. Like, you might take a 15-minute phone call, and then it's like, I don't know, £100 sterling.
Yeah.
And she's like,
Yeah.
no, we're terrible too. So I'm thinking, like, who out there is actually good at putting a price on what they bring to the table? I don't know, because I think financially, the company really only kept going because of the type of projects that they were working on during COVID. They were pretty much designing the infrastructure that was allowing most people to work from home.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so household names that we all know about, people that we've ordered things from, and
Mm.
people who host streaming services, should we say, they were the main clients. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what kept the business going. But there was no kind of, and this is something that, after being in the industry for 15 years, I realized, like, I'm stuck in this place where it's the blind leading the blind, and these people have zero entrepreneurial know-how, and
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you're just entrusting your future to people who don't they're not entrepreneurs, and they don't have any vision. They have no idea of, like, oh, these are the clients that we want to work on. I remember working right at the start of my career as an engineer. Um, I worked for a company that didn't even have a marketing department.
Wow. Okay. 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 Yeah.
Still going now, but I mean, literally, it took the crisis of 2008, 2009 for them to think, oh, actually, we have to start marketing ourselves.
Marketing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
can really relate to, having to deliver projects and, hit the milestones and all that, but the knowledge that you have, and oh my goodness, I was qualified to the hilt. I was always taking professional exams, just in case our clients wanted those services. And that
Yeah.
is outside of normal working hours where you have your deadlines to meet. And I was thinking, I'm working this hard now and I'm getting paid this little. Like, what if I took all of that, like who I am, my work ethic, to my ability to learn and to analyze and to put into practice, and actually
Mm-hmm.
focus on my own business? Imagine that. Like,
Yeah.
imagine
Mm-hmm.
what that might look like. so, so, yeah, and I see friends who are still kind of, they have one foot in firmly in a salaried position, but they're always dreaming of, oh, like, one day I'd like to have my business, and one day I'd like to do that. Or they have a brilliant business idea, and uh, they're putting it off because they have no idea how to start.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, yeah, we need to talk about your rates.
All right, yeah. But honestly, like starting for me was also not so easy, and also as a researcher, I had that idea of doing everything myself because I can learn. Because like I did such a complex thing, so why not to do a website? Why not to do a marketing? But in reality, I think as a good entrepreneur, you should also learn to outsource, and also to get help and I really got a lot of help, a lot of learning, and and I think that entrepreneurship is also very much about learning, and I think that this is actually what I like about it. I love people I'm working with, and you see that feeling of impact, that you can help people, that you can have impact, uh, yeah probably even more or different than doing pure research, for example, or like designing some complex stuff. Like here, I see the results directly, when my clients pop up on a call like that. But I completely agree with you that the like how we value our work is very, very important. And I also started to think about it like pretty late in my journey, only as an entrepreneur. And I think that there is a whole money education. There is a that is something that our family can or cannot give us. There is also an education on like, how do you position yourself? How do you market yourself? How do you sell yourself? And I think that this is also a skill. And I think that we don't want to think about it as such, or, sometimes we think about um, like a salesman that is just coming and trying to push some products on you that you don't really need. But I think that actually selling yourself is pretty much like everywhere, so I had to deal with a lot of like admin stuff here, and like took with the lawyers and so on. Well, so then I started to think, okay, well, but how can I position myself? How can I sell myself in a way that they will respect me and take me seriously? It was just that, I was the client, but it's also how do you position yourself? It's the same like when you want to get rid of your old, I don't know, books or furniture, you also need to sell it, right? And it's interviews, for example, job interviews, it's selling yourself. And I mean, and I always like attached like this selling skill. First of all, I didn't see it as a skill, and second of all, like marketing and selling, I felt it more like, cheating people. But it's actually not cheating. It is really very, you didn't have that. I not cheating, but like, like, doing more than it is. But it's not, it's just actually showing the value that you can bring, or
Yeah, I totally had that, by the way.
you had that, okay,
Yeah,
because I
I
saw
had
your
that.
face and I thought, oh, am I saying something wrong? But
No, you're not saying anything wrong at all. I
how I
can
feel it.
completely relate to that because I remember, so as a consultant, you have to put fee proposals together, but um, you're basic. It's almost a formality at that point because the client already has a relationship with the company. It's usually repeat business. They're just looking at the. They're not even reading the whole fee proposal because they know what services you can deliver. So they're just looking at the price at that point. So I never had to go out to schmooze or market. I never had to do any of that. I was just
Mhm.
in technical delivery pretty much and client management and relationship management, project management, delivering my audits on time. That's what I was doing. I was at the delivery end, really training, managing teams. That's it. But yeah, I completely agree. And this is, I mean, I saw the shift as I worked for bigger consultancies where they did actually have dedicated people out there who were marketing and selling. Um, I don't think it was done particularly well because often I was asked to contribute to those efforts. but it was almost like you'd have the company website as a. I don't think those are websites that convert, right? So I don't.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how. I mean, I don't know how it works in your business now, but I can tell you that for me, it's more about personal referrals. So
Exactly.
my
Mm-hmm.
clients know me personally, or they've got to know me, or they've literally interacted with me in person, and that's how they've become clients. It's not, I don't have a website, I have a landing page that doesn't convert. Like, it's depending on the type of service that you're providing. Marketing efforts may or may not. Maybe also it's industry dependent. I don't know. I think if you're, say you're trying to design an Olympic village, for instance, are you going to go onto Google and ask Google, where can I find an engineering consultant that can design me a master plan? I mean, do you even know to look for that? Probably not. You'll speak to architects, and maybe the architects will put you in touch with. I mean, that's the way that it worked in my previous industry. I think it was all personal relationships. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think
Mm-hmm.
anyone ever came to our website and said, "Right, I'm going to work," because they didn't even know what they were looking for.
Yeah. 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 Exactly, exactly. And I think that it's crucial what you're saying. It's people working with people. No matter what business it is, it's people working with people. So for me, in that, let's say, psychology, mental health sphere, education, it's also people working with people. So a lot of my clients come through the recommendations, through word of mouth, or it's people that I also met at the conferences or when I give presentation. And yeah, and I always offer like a meeting before actually onboarding someone, just to feel the person, because okay, it's online, so it's a particular setting, but the idea is to meet and to see if I can help the person, how I can help the person, but also if the person can trust me in that setting, how do we vibrate together? And then, like, based on that, I can propose how we could work together. So I also very much believe in that human aspect, actually.
I mean, I can think of at least one of my cousins who was forced into a PhD, which she never completed, but persevered for 11 long years. I really
Yeah.
wish that, I mean, this was a long time ago, but I really wish that she had had access to someone like you. Maybe she would have finished. Who knows? Who knows? Her dad would have been so proud.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, like, I think that sometimes it just doesn't matter when you, like, if you like, yeah, of course I encourage my clients to finish, but sometimes they are going also through the situations that it's very dangerous for their health to push it and to finish. So sometimes it's a really good decision not to finish and just to let it go. But very often this feeling of letting go, it comes with a feeling of failure. Like, you see, I would, just like you said, like, all the family would be proud. So basically, if you're not doing it, then you're disappointing everyone, right? And then the person has to carry that weight of, yeah, well, I disappointed all the family. Maybe I had the skills, but I was not able, like, all that. And very often that also puts a shade on the next career years and self-worth, like self-confidence and so on. So I also work with people who left academia and who still feel not good enough, for example, just because they left, they didn't get to that diploma or whatever it represents. And that's sad, like, it's a choice. It's yeah, PhD, you don't, like, yeah, you do it if you want to do it, if it goes well, but your self value should not depend on the diploma, on the degree that you get.
Okay. So I think it's really interesting that you've mentioned that even though you're working with high achievers, they feel that they need to be an expert on the topic, whatever topic it is, right? That they're not good enough because they have to research more, they have to learn more. Can you tell us a little bit about imposter syndrome? Because I think it's quite common in anyone who's transitioning from maybe being an employee to running their own business.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, I think that imposter syndrome is actually really, really big. And recently I read another post of a psychologist that is working with entrepreneurs,
Mm.
and she was just also writing, oh, imposter syndromes, health confidence issues. And I think that this is something very common in academia, but also among the entrepreneurs. Like, all actually those high achievers, is that this, on one side, like desire and ambition to provide a quality work, to have impact, to be seen, and on the other side also that fear of judgment, of what the others will think about me. And there is actually a big confusion because like I think that imposter syndrome is used for everything right now. Like, you have a self-confidence problem, people will say, oh, you suffer from imposter syndrome. But in reality, like so imposter syndrome relates to the fear of what others will think about you. So on that judgment.
Mm.
So, for example, in the situations where you're often judged, like in academia, your work is being constantly evaluated, yeah, that imposter syndrome really gets enhanced. If you're working as an entrepreneur and you have to be a lot in front of the people, also you are being judged for your performance, or like, would people like your product? That is the judgment part that is in it. Another part of imposter syndrome is really, it's more complex, than just what others will think. It's also feeling like a fraud. It's what, like, I provide a great quality work, but what people will think about my work if they knew how much time I spend on it, for example. So, and there are like big scientists like Newton, who suffered clearly from imposter syndrome. Michelle Obama, another very bright person that also talks openly about her imposter syndrome, but she's also a public person, right? So very much exposed to the judgment of others. And I think that this is like the difference to make, because there is your self-confidence. So this is what you think about yourself. What do you believe is true for yourself? This is your self-confidence. And some people have doubts, whether they are doing things good, whether doubt their skills and so on. And that is completely all right. But that is different. And also then the strategies that we'll have are different than when you think, well, I'm doing it, I think it's good, but I'm afraid what others will think about it. Or I'm doing it to the best I can, but if they knew how much time it takes me, to achieve that, that is a little bit of a different mental mechanism. And indeed, among the high achievers that are often in those situations of being judged, the imposter syndrome gets even stronger.
I find this really fascinating because I mean I think back to my time as an employee, I was often pretty much the expert in what I was doing, and yet I was being managed by people who were clueless. Some of them had never even been to university. It was really, it's just, it's such an added tax to not only know your subject inside out, but then to have to convince people. You have to do this convincing job to your management, and then but you know that when you're sitting in a meeting and you're leading a project, that you are the expert. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
this weird. I mean, and the last time I considered taking on an employed role, um, I was in the same situation again, working, well, considering a position with two people above me. So it would have been a director and a head of department, something like that. And from the conversations, and we had a lot of interviews, I could tell that they were utterly clueless. They were just winging it. And I thought, if I take this job on, I will be responsible for their incompetence to date. And they were doing things that were not really not above board and not, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But, and I thought, this is added stress that I don't think anyone should have to deal with. But I worked in a male dominated industry and I was thinking, so I take this role on as an associate director, and maybe my
Mhm.
reputation is trashed. I can never work in the industry again. But
Mhm.
what? Why? Why would I do
Yeah.
that? So,
Yeah.
so how can people work with you? I mean, I think there's overlap between some of my clients, my client
Mhm.
base,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I mean, even though maybe they're fresh out of academia, but they already have, a full time job actually.
Yeah. Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah, how could do people get to work with you?
Yeah, so I just invite them to contact me directly, the best, so they can find information about me, about what I'm doing on the website, which is phdsuccess.eu. So we're European based, but I also work with clients from all over the world. So it's phdsuccess.eu. And from there, there can either contact me through the website or simply send me an email on contact@phdsuccess.eu and to tell me that they would like to meet, and they can also schedule a meeting. So this is a free meeting,
Hmm.
completely out of charge, just to get to know me, and I would then learn about their challenges, and then based on that we will see if I can help them and how I can help them, and based on that I will propose them how we could work together, and then of course it's their decision whether they want to go for it or not. So I really invite, as we said, like people work with people just to contact me directly. Yeah, they can also schedule an individual meeting through my website. Yeah, and then let's just meet. So that is for the individual consultations. Now, if there are some people who are high achievers who like want to boost their productivity, then I also have another tool that I'm preparing, which is actually a course for PhD researchers. It's for PhD researchers, but I think that the advice over there, it's really advice about like uncovering your brain capacity, your true brain power that is really research based, based on all those intellectual works. So it applies to all the intellectual workers, like how you can actually optimize your brain capacity, so that you can work better in a more efficient way, less effortful, and so then accomplish more. So I also have that, and for that I'm just inviting you to sign up to the wait list as I'm preparing it right now, and then you will be the first one to know about it.
I'm so excited. I want to sign up. I
Yes,
want to
please
sign
do,
up
Claire,
for
please.
the
i would
call.
i
I
would
really,
love to have your thoughts about it as well. Yes, definitely,
I,
definitely, yeah.
because
and,
I
and
think. Please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, no, because it's not like really when I was preparing that course, someone also like I talked actually with Marcus, with our common friend, about the content, and he said, well, that could be great for the ITs. I also have like this challenges, or that is so relevant. So I think that it's not industry related. I mean, I'm taking it really from the perspective of PhD students and researchers, but I think it's very much like kind of all the intellectual type of work
Hmm.
where you're invited to think and to create, but at the same time where you don't necessarily have a structure that forces you to do given things in a given time, because it's also sometimes you can actually play with that flexibility. It can be your best friend and you can really optimize it, or it can be your enemy as well. So that's also like handling your brain and using the flexibility that you have in your work.
Oh, that's really fantastic. And I'll tell you why I think this would be really amazing for some of my client base. Is because, on the one hand, I do work with people who have chronic conditions, but I also work with people who, and this is recent, because I connect with so many coaches, independent consultants and therapists and psychotherapists. I came up with this idea of just doing just a freebie for them, like how to eat to support productivity and energy and mental clarity and focus, right? Like the building blocks that your physical body needs, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the mindset or anything like that. But yeah, I think what you're going to come up with is going to be really complementary, because with entrepreneurs, when usually if you're starting out by yourself, you're wearing all of the different hats. You are the CEO, the CFO, the CMO, the
Absolutely. Yeah.
XO. You're delivering, you're marketing, you're doing selling, you're building a website, you're
Yeah.
maybe hiring people, you're outsourcing, you're doing all of, and it is mentally, it is taxing,
Yeah.
no matter what. So yeah, I can definitely see that my client base would definitely benefit from that, because so the second half of my business is more about enhancing and just maintaining good health, but also with a view to aging well, right? And that's
Hmm.
the body and the brain and the
Yeah.
mind, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for people who have goals beyond retirement, beyond their 60s and their 70s and their 80s, and they want to be active and they want to be independent in old age, because that's something that, I think women, especially when they're approaching retirement or they're in that kind of menopausal stage, and they're starting to see a cognitive, I don't want to say decline, but a shift.
A shift. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that's probably when they start taking notice, or for people who've hit burnout, and they're recovering to try to get to that level that they were at before, the health challenge. Yeah, these are very real. There are very real implications. Um, yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
I was approached by a lady who's working on an app for women in menopause, and she's using nonviolent communication and NLP to
Mm-hmm.
support women through that stage. And she was telling me about how horrendous her transition into menopause was, and still is actually. She's talking about brain fog. She's talking about not being able to remember things. Like it affects people differently. But she also talked about how it's often when women will just slowly, quietly quit from the corporate world and try and find something that is maybe less stressful. So they might go from, being in the C suite to just,
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, doing yoga teacher training and opening a yoga studio. And I'm not saying this in a disparaging way, but they literally really, really have to make a huge shift to save themselves,
Yeah.
right? So I think these people would benefit. And you work with men as well. Sorry, I know this is women of caliber, right? But you work with men as well. You...
Yeah, I also do work with men. Yes, yes, both. Yeah, academic researchers. Yeah, but like I hear you, because I think that, yeah, like in academia also women have to perform, and they are also going through all the challenges, like having babies, for example. So this is something that has been luckily very much discussed right now, but it's still in progress. That having a baby and having that time off, which is just the time, to give birth and start raising your children, can be very penalizing in academia, because it takes time,
Yep.
and it takes time of research, so you're not publishing then that much. There were also very interesting research that was looking at like the rate of publications when a person becomes a father or becomes a mother. And
Ooh.
so yeah, so the it's a whole change of life, a biological change as well, and women are very, very much affected by it themselves, but also their career. And we see it in academia, because academia is very much also, and unfortunately, about metrics, like how many publications you do every year, how many conferences you go, what results you have. So we can kind of measure it which is not necessarily a right measure, but those differences between men and women are visible actually. And actually, now that you're speaking about menopause, that has not been addressed yet. Like, up to my knowledge, I have not heard about the research on, women or researchers in menopause, which would be probably more advanced researchers already, but probably, they are also in that period where, when you're, let's say, in your late 40s, middle 50s, you're probably already got to a professorship, you probably supervise PhD students, you might be leading a lab. I mean, sometimes it's also the time and your performance that gets you at that point really to a position where you really need to perform. And to be honest, yes, I don't know what are those women going through, how does it affect their career, their productivity. I mean, I think that this is still like an elephant in the room. I have personally, I have not thought about it, but I think that has not been thought or spoken about. So it might be still quite a taboo, just like mental health itself in academia has been a taboo, but for years. Like, really, we are talking like the first really research, and it was a Nature survey, came up in 2018. End of 2017, 2018, we have the first research about mental health of academics. And it makes a big boom, but it was sitting there for years. I mean, and
Wow. I would.
and so I would be very curious also, to explore like mental health of academics in their, let's say, mid career times, and also what is happening for academic women in that moment of their life when they are going through menopause, for example, because we know that menopause has a huge impact on the mental abilities, but also of the self perception of yourself, confidence, like all the psychological, but also like intellectual aspects. And it's not that we are getting, yeah, that we are getting less, but it's different. It's a change.
Yeah. So I think so in my nutritional therapy training, I did notice that. I mean, there was a wide range of ages. That you had people who have come from psychotherapy, people who've come from medicine. There were nurses, there were doctors taking the course, and there were people from all walks of life, and women, a lot of women, but in all different stages of life. So some women have personal experience of what it's like to go through menopause, and how the impacts that it's had, and that's one of the for some of them that was the reason that they were embarking on that course of study. Now, I do have a book recommendation for you, Dr. Lisa Mosconi. I think she's a neuroscientist, but I'm not 100% sure. And she wrote a book called The XX Brain.
Okay.
This is more, it's got some quizzes in there, and it's trying to assess pretty much your I guess, brain function, and trying to highlight areas that you need to focus on now. Not you, a woman would need to focus on in prevention, as a preventive measure. But I think she's written another book, and I'm not sure about this, but I think it might be the menopause brain. So there is research, which is really encouraging.
There is a research on menopause and brain, that I know, but it's more like researchers in academia, like female researchers in academia, and how the menopause period, like just like giving birth period, how that influenced their career, for example. That is something I'm not aware of, but I also didn't look for it, so maybe I should actually check before saying something.
Oh, this is exciting. So yeah, let me know, and I will update the show notes and the description to include these links and the book that you mentioned as well. One book that I often refer to, and I don't know if you've heard of it, is The Body Keeps the Score, and it's by Bessel van der Kolk. I think
Okay.
he's from the Netherlands originally, so I probably butchered his name.
Let's
But
see.
so he did research on post-traumatic stress disorder, some of the early research, and he was working with people who had been in non-combat situations, and I think that was kind of at the time when they started realizing that you could suffer from PTSD even if you hadn't gone to war. Um,
Mhm,
and then
mhm,
he talks about all the different ways that people can address trauma. Um, I don't know about healing, but definitely the treatments that are available. Yeah, and so what a lot of practitioners, I guess wellness practitioners as well, like nutritional therapists, do is that they will get that additional training in how to literally physically rid the body of trauma that's trapped. Um, by whichever way, whether it's tapping, or we can also signpost people to trained professionals, licensed therapists and
mhm,
counselors, to uncover some of the root causes of actually conditions that they're struggling with. So, yeah.
mhm.
So thank you so much. This has been so informative. I would love to have you back on the show when you can fit us in, squeeze us into your busy schedule. But it's been an absolute pleasure, Dr. Ava. Um, yeah, I just like to thank you on behalf of my audience, and I look forward to staying in touch and seeing what you're going to do next.
Right, yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Claire. It was so nice and pleasant to talk with you, and also like thank you for the audience if they got to the end. So yes, thank you so much. Really delighted to be here.
Oh, thank you. Okay, well, that's it for this episode of Women of Calibre. I'll see you in the next episode.
Yay! Bye bye.
Bye.